Did you know that behind every Roman helmet is an incredible story of strategy, innovation, and survival? These helmets weren't just pieces of metal. They defined battles, saved lives, and symbolized the power of one of the most incredible civilizations the world has ever seen. But here's the truth. As Rome became a powerhouse, soldiers relied not just on strength or discipline, but on the impeccable design of these helmets that made all the difference between life and death on the battlefield. If you've ever wondered how a simple helmet can influence history, or if you want to understand why Rome dominated the world for centuries, this is the video you need to watch right now. Let's unveil together the 10 best designed Roman helmets that revolutionized the way of fighting and still leave lessons to this day. You're about to discover how every detail of these artifacts carried not only protection, but a legacy of greatness. Get ready, because what you're going to see now isn't just history. It's Rome like you've never seen it before. You know that kind of object that at first glance seems simple, but when you understand the context, you realize that it was revolutionary. This is Montefortino, a bronze helmet worn by early Roman legionnaires that not only saved lives, but also helped shape what would become the Roman Empire. Go back with me in time, to the 4th century BC. Rome was still in its infancy, facing enemies from all sides. It wasn't the superpower that would dominate the world, but it already had something special, determined soldiers, and an incredible way of transforming simple things into something functional. Montefortino was exactly that. It was created to protect soldiers without hindering their movements. Light, practical, and resistant, it was the type of tool that made all the difference in battle. Now let me tell you something curious. Each helmet often had the soldier's name engraved. It is as if the Montefortino was not just a piece of war equipment, but a piece of the personal history of those who used it. Just imagine, a soldier going into battle, knowing that that helmet with his name on it could be the one that would save his life. Doesn't this humanize these warriors, who we often think of as war machines? But why did this helmet become so famous? The answer lies in the design. It was rounded, which helped deflect blows and arrows, and even had side protections for the cheeks. This was fundamental, because the soldier could see well, hear the enemy, and still be protected. No fancy stuff. Everything in Montefortino was designed to work in the heat of battle, and it really worked. This helmet was used in some of Rome's most important wars, such as the Punic Wars, where Rome faced the incredible Hannibal. Soldiers with the Montefortino were there, fighting with courage and marking history. Many of these helmets survive to this day, full of dents and marks, like scars that tell stories of past battles. The most impressive thing is that it didn't get obsolete so quickly. Even with the emergence of new designs, Montefortino has been used for centuries. Do you know why? It was simple and easy to produce. An inexpensive, repairable, and efficient helmet. It was exactly what Rome needed to grow and face ever-increasing challenges. Have you ever felt that the stories you know about Rome are always the same, without the real details, emotions, and strategies that defined the greatest empire in history? With that in mind, I created the 10 battles that shaped the empire. This book gets straight to the point. Clear, moving, and never-before-seen explanations of how legendary leaders turned battles into historic milestones. You no longer need to get lost in confusing reports. Click on the pinned comment and download now the 10 battles that shaped the Roman Empire. But beware, it is for a limited time. Transform the way you see history and discover what has always been missing in the narratives you thought you knew. Now think with me. Isn't it amazing how such a seemingly basic helmet managed to be so impactful? It was not just a piece of protection, it was a symbol of Roman efficiency and pragmatism. When you imagine legions marching, or with matching helmets, you can't deny that this conveyed strength and organization. Just by looking, the enemies already knew who they were dealing with. If you could hold a Montefortino today, with war marks and ancient inscriptions, what would you feel? Every scratch tells a story, every engraved name is a direct connection to a past that helped shape the world we live in today. These helmets are not just relics, they are silent testimonies of how Rome conquered the impossible. Before continuing, I saw here that you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. You won't want to miss all the content about Rome that I will always be bringing. Have you ever stopped to think about how the Romans managed to transform everything they touched into something even better? The coolest helmet is proof of that. Inspired by the Celts of the region that is now France, he showed how Rome knew how to learn from the peoples it conquered and transform these ideas into something of its own. In the 1st century BC, Rome was facing the Gauls, who who were known for their fighting techniques and well-thought-out equipment. The Romans, of course, noticed the efficient design of their helmets and decided to make adaptations. That's how culus was born. The shape was more rounded than the Montefortino, which helped deflect blows and better protect the soldiers' heads. In addition, it had a small ridge on top that helped dissipate the impact of attacks, showing that every detail had a function. Now, let me tell you an interesting curiosity. While ordinary soldiers wore simpler helmets, officers had versions decorated with silver and polished bronze details. Imagine seeing a commander with his helmet shining in the sun, leading the troops on the battlefield. It was not only a matter of protection, but also of commanding respect and inspiring confidence. And here comes the detail that really makes culus special. It wasn't just a metal piece on its head, it symbolized the way Rome adapted what worked. If the Celts had a good idea, why not use it? This mindset helped Rome grow and win battles that seemed impossible. The culus was used for several decades, going through the end of the Republic and the beginning of the Empire. It was cheap, easy to produce, and efficient, three qualities that the Romans valued highly. Looking at history, it's fascinating to think about the cultural impact of this. By using something inspired by the Gauls, Rome was not only conquering territories, but incorporating some of the identity of these peoples into its own army. Each culus carries this mix of influences, a history of combat and evolution. Imagine holding one of these helmets today. Feel the weight of bronze, see the details of battle marks, and maybe even a decoration that symbolized an officer's authority. Each scratch would be a memory. Each detail would tell a little of the history of those who used it. Now visualize this, a helmet that was present in crucial conflicts, witnessed moments that changed the course of Rome, and was a symbol of how adaptation could be a powerful weapon. What about you? Can you imagine what it would be like to be in the shoes of a Roman soldier wearing a culus? If you find this adaptation fascinating, comment below which of these helmets you have seen so far the best. I want to know your opinion. Imagine coming face to face with a Roman soldier, wearing a helmet that looked like it came out of a movie. Powerful, imposing, and full of details that showed both Rome's talent and cunning. This is the Imperial Gallic, considered by many to be the most iconic helmet in Roman military history. And it's no wonder. It combined protection, comfort, and a design that made any enemy think twice before attacking. First, let's talk about the look. The Imperial Gallic had reinforced edges, cheek protection, and an adjustable crest that was not just decorative. This crest helped deflect blows, and in the officers' helmets, it was a real show apart. Some had colorful feathers or were made of shiny materials like bronze, highlighting who was in charge. Now imagine seeing it on the battlefield, a line of legionnaires, all wearing these impeccable helmets, marching in formation. It was a spectacle to intimidate any enemy army, but it wasn't just beautiful. The Imperial Gallic was designed to protect the most vulnerable points of the head, while making soldiers comfortable to fight for hours. It was light enough not to get in the way during long marches, and had a ventilation system that made all the difference in hot weather. Every detail has been thought out to offer the perfect balance between functionality and comfort. Now, here's an interesting detail. This helmet is proof of how Rome knew how to learn from other peoples. He was inspired by the Gauls, but the Romans took the idea and improved it. They were not shy about adapting and innovating, and the result was a helmet that not only protected but also symbolized the power and sophistication of Rome. Another thing that makes the Imperial Gallic stand out is how he showed the hierarchy within the army. Ordinary soldiers wore simpler versions, while officers sported helmets adorned with engravings and luxurious details such as silver inlays. This wasn't just aesthetic, it was a way to reinforce order and discipline on the battlefield. Everyone knew who was in charge just by looking. Just think, holding one of these helmets today would be like touching a piece of history. Feel the weight of the metal, see the scratches and battle marks. Every detail tells a story of courage and strategy. He was not just a piece of armor, but a testimony to what made Rome an invincible power for so many centuries. Now visualize this, a formation of soldiers using the Imperial Gallic, protected and ready to take on any challenge. The helmet was not just a piece of equipment, it was a statement of power and organization. Did you know that the Romans never stopped improving what was already good? Imperial Italic is a great example of this. This helmet was not only an evolution of the Imperial Gallic, but a true reflection of the culture of the Italian peninsula. It was widely used between the 1st and 2nd centuries AD and was incredibly lightweight, without losing the protection a soldier needed in the heat of battle. What made Imperial Italic special? First, the design. It kept the reinforced edges and the protection for the cheeks, but the great idea was its lightness. Roman engineers adjusted the weight, which helped the legionaries march for miles and still have the energy to fight. Just imagine, you carry a helmet that protects your life and at the same time does not exhaust you before even entering combat. This was advanced for the time. And here's a great touch, the decorative crests. They were not only beautiful but extremely functional. Depending on the rank of the soldier or the type of mission, the style of the crest changed. Centurions, for example, used transverse crests so that their troops could identify them in the midst of confusion. Other soldiers had simpler crests. This detail was not just aesthetic, it was a way to visually organize the army, something crucial in battles where everything could quickly turn into chaos. Imperial Italic also had something that went beyond functionality, cultural identity. While Imperial Gallic brought Celtic influences, Italic was totally Roman. It represented the unification of the peninsula and showed that, even with all the regional differences, the army was one. It was a helmet that symbolized both the strength and the identity of an empire. And you know what's more fascinating? Even in times of political and social change, Imperial Italic remained relevant. It has undergone adjustments, but it has never lost its essence. This says a lot about how amazing the Romans were at balancing innovation and tradition. Each helmet was designed to be efficient and withstand the challenges of an empire that seemed indestructible. Now imagine holding an Imperial Italic today. Feel the cold metal, notice the details of the crests, and think about the stories he carried. He was more than an object of war. It was a symbol of an era where Rome ruled with discipline and strategy. And don't forget to pick up your digital book 10 Battles That Shaped the Roman Empire. It's important that you get it right now before the units run out. In the last days of the Roman Empire, when everything seemed to be falling apart, the Romans were still looking for ways to reinvent themselves. Two helmets stood out in this period of uncertainty: the ridge helmet and the Spangenhelm. These two models were not just protective equipment, but responses to the new threats and collapse that Rome was facing. The ridge helmet was a big change. It appeared in the 4th century AD. They with an attention-grabbing design, two main pieces of metal joined by a central ridge. This crest was not only decorative, it reinforced the helmet, making it more resistant to direct blows, something essential against enemies such as the Huns and the Germans, who used increasingly lethal weapons. This design was robust, functional, and showed how Rome still had its military creativity intact, even with so many challenges. At the same time, Spangenhelm emerged. This helmet was quite different. It was made of several metal plates connected by leather or bronze straps, which made it much easier and cheaper to produce. This was crucial, considering that the Roman Empire was running into increasingly scarce resources. The modularity of the Spangenhelm also meant that it could be repaired with ease, a major benefit for soldiers on extended campaigns. Because of this, it quickly spread throughout Europe, influencing helmet design during the Middle Ages. These two helmets reflect much of what was happening in Rome at that time. The ridge helmet was an attempt to preserve Roman military tradition and sophistication, while the Spangenhelm showed a more pragmatic side and influenced by other cultures. After all, many Roman soldiers at this time came from outside the empire and brought their own ideas and styles to the battlefield. The most interesting thing is that these helmets were not just functional objects. They told a story. The ridge helmet, with its rugged and detailed construction, symbolized Rome's struggle to stand firm even in times of decline. The Spangenhelm, on the other hand, simpler and more affordable, represented the transition to a new era in which practicality and economy were essential. The materials used in these helmets also show the conditions of the empire. The ridge helmet used to be made of thicker, tougher iron, designed to withstand heavy impacts. In contrast, the Spangenhelm was a modular solution, allowing the use of thinner metals that could be easily replaced in the event of damage. This difference symbolizes how Rome was adjusting to the demands of constant warfare and the scarcity of resources. Another curiosity is how these helmets directly influenced the future of war in Europe. The Spangenhelm, in particular, became a model for medieval helmets, such as those worn by knights in the following centuries. It was so efficient that it continued to be produced long after the end of the Roman Empire. Its modularity allowed different regions to adapt the design to their own needs, creating variations that spread across the continent. Even so, the ridge helmet and spangenhelm represented more than technical evolutions. They were reflections of an empire in transition. While one sought to preserve the grandeur of Rome, the other accepted the need for practicality in an increasingly fragmented world. They symbolize an empire's ultimate effort to stay relevant in the face of an uncertain future. At a time of collapse and transformation, the ridge helmet and the spangenhelm show that Rome did not give up easily. Even in its final days, the empire was still looking for creative solutions to face ever-increasing challenges. These helmets are not just artifacts of war, they are pieces of a puzzle that helps to understand how Rome resisted until the last moment. If you imagine a Roman legionnaire in battle, he is probably wearing a cassis. This helmet was not only a piece of protection, but a true symbol of Roman power. During the classical period, it became indispensable for soldiers, combining protection, functionality, and a touch of status. What made cassis so special? For starters, its design was incredibly complete. It protected the entire head with side ear flaps, a neck protector, and a front gusset to absorb direct impacts. Now imagine a soldier facing spears and swords in hand-to-hand combat. The cassis was designed to withstand these brutal blows, allowing the legionnaire to remain calm and have a wide view of the battlefield, something essential when his life depends on seeing the next attack. Despite all this protection, the helmet did not sacrifice mobility. It was sturdy but surprisingly light, which made all the difference during endless marches and battles that never seemed to end. The shape of the cassis was ergonomic, fitting well to the head, ensuring comfort even in extreme situations. The Romans knew that there is no point in protecting if the soldier cannot move easily. And it wasn't just functional. The cassis also had a symbolic meaning. For a legionnaire, wearing this helmet meant belonging to one of the most disciplined and respected armies in history. He carried the weight of representing Rome, and that was no small feat. In addition, the officers' helmets were even more impressive, decorated with feathers or crests that highlighted their authority. These details were not only aesthetic, they were a way to inspire morale and keep the organization in the heat of combat. Made of iron or bronze, cassis was incredibly durable, and in some regions of the empire it gained personalized touches. Craftsmen added unique engravings and ornaments, transforming each helmet into a functional piece and at the same time a work of art. This care with design shows how the Romans balanced practicality and aesthetics like few others. Now, think about it. The cassis was not just an individual item. He was part of an incredible system of military organization. In formations such as the famous testaudo, that practically impenetrable shield barrier, each helmet helped protect the soldier and maintain the structure of the group. This combination of collective and individual defense is one of the reasons why Rome dominated so widely. More than just a helmet, the cassis was a symbol of everything that made Rome tick: discipline, innovation, and pragmatism. Each legionnaire who wore it carried with them not just a piece of metal, but the story of an empire that redefined the world. This helmet also bore the mark of how Rome valued every detail of its war machine. The cassis was part of a larger gear that included shields, swords, and spears, all designed to work together in harmony. Rome's ability to create equipment that not only protected, but enhanced the efficiency of its formations explains why its armies were so feared and respected. And we cannot ignore the psychological impact that cassis had. Imagine an enemy seeing a row of Roman soldiers, all equipped with identical helmets that gleamed in the sun, marching in perfect formation. This wasn't just intimidating, it was a visual demonstration of Rome's power and organization, something that few armies could match. Today, looking at a cassis is like glimpsing an essential part of military history. It symbolizes the combination of functionality, design, and symbolism that made Rome an empire that was second to none. This helmet wasn't just a tool, it was a legacy that continues to impress to this day. Think of a helmet that was not only used to protect, but to impress. Roman ceremonial helmets were much more than simple equipment. They were pure displays of luxury, power, and authority. Made with precious metals like gold and silver, and adorned with stunning detail, these helmets were created to leave anyone speechless. These helmets were not used in combat. They shone on special occasions such as military parades, celebrations, and triumphs. Imagine a Roman general mounted on his horse with a helmet that reflected the glare of the sun, leading an impeccable line of soldiers. That scene was not only a show of military power, but also a clear message. Rome was invincible, and its leaders were almost divine figures. The design of these helmets was amazing. Many featured mythological figures such as eagles, which symbolized strength, or Roman gods, who represented protection and courage. The crests, made of dyed feathers or manes, added grandeur to the look. Everything about them was designed to impress and reaffirm the greatness of Rome. It was as if every detail told a story of glory and superiority. The most fascinating thing is how these helmets were produced. Expert craftsmen spent months working on each piece. Imagine the work of inlaying gold and silver details, engraving detailed figures and polishing until the metal shone like a mirror. Each helmet was unique, and its quality reflected not only the talent of the craftsman, but also Rome's commitment to perfection. These helmets weren't just luxury objects, they were manifestations of a Roman ideal. And they weren't just beautiful, they had an important role in the projection of power. When a Roman officer wore one of these, he was not just showing his position, he was reinforcing the image of Rome as the center of the civilized world. It was a powerful visual advertisement that impressed allies and intimidated enemies. These helmets were like living banners, showing that Rome was not only a military force, but also a cultural one. Ceremonial helmets also played a symbolic role within the legions. They were used to highlight the hierarchy and remind us that Roman command was always linked to the divine order. At public celebrations, the glitter of these helmets created a lasting impact, making it clear that Rome's power came from both the gods and its leaders. Some of these helmets have survived time and can be seen today in museums. Looking at them is like traveling back in time. Every detail tells a story of an empire that knew how to use luxury to bolster its authority. More than simple adornments, these helmets were proof that in Rome even war could be transformed into art. For those who observe them today, the beauty and grandeur of these helmets continue to impress. They weren't just tools. They were symbols of a civilization that knew how to balance power and sophistication. These artifacts show that in Rome, even the smallest details were thought to leave their mark on history. The Spangenhelm is like a silent witness to the end of the Roman Empire and the beginning of a new era. He appeared at a time when Rome was facing great difficulties. Resources were limited, wars multiplied, and the pressure to find quick and efficient solutions grew. Unlike the more elaborate helmets of the past, the Spangenhelm brought a simple and pragmatic approach, but it worked very well. This helmet was formed by metal plates joined by iron or bronze strips. This modular structure had a major advantage. It was cheaper and faster to produce. In addition, if a part was damaged, it was easy to replace it without the need to redo the entire helmet. For soldiers in battle, this ease of repair made all the difference. Imagine being in the middle of a conflict, with no time or tools for major repairs. The Spangenhelm solved this problem with practicality. Visually, it was quite different from Rome's most iconic helmets. Forget about refined details and extravagant decorations. The Spangenhelm was straight to the point, functional and without excesses. It reflected an empire that no longer had the luxury of spending resources on ostentation. But make no mistake, this simplicity did not take away from its effectiveness. It protected the head well and was light enough for soldiers to maintain their mobility. One of the greatest contributions of the Spangenhelm was its ability to influence military design in Europe. It became a standard, being adopted by different peoples after the collapse of Rome. Its modularity allowed the model to be adjusted to meet the needs of diverse regions and cultures. Before long, the Spangenhelm went from being just a Roman helmet to an essential tool for medieval armies. This influence is a direct reflection of Roman pragmatism, which continued to live on even after the fall of the empire. Another important point is how the Spangenhelm symbolizes the change of mentality in a world that was rebuilding. In Rome's heyday, helmets were both practical and symbolically powerful, with details that reflected the greatness of the empire. The Spangenhelm, on the other hand, showed a more direct approach, prioritizing survival and efficiency over luxury and ostentation. He was a faithful portrait of a time when simplicity was not just a choice, but a necessity. It is interesting to note that, despite its simplicity, the Spangenhelm had an imposing nature of its own. He represented the adaptation and resilience of a civilization that, even in decline, was still able to create efficient and lasting solutions. Each soldier who wore this helmet was part of a larger story, of an empire that even weakened continued to influence the future. Looking at the Spangenhelm today is like understanding the last gasps of a civilization that has dominated the world for centuries. It may not be the most glamorous helmet, but it carries an incredible story. He is testimony that, even in its final moments, Rome was still able to shape the world around it. A simple but incredibly powerful end to an era that changed history forever. And the Spangenhelm continues to remind us of that, an artifact that stands the test of time, echoing the genius and persistence of Rome even after its fall. We've come to the end of this incredible journey through the legacy of Roman helmets, and what a legacy, huh? Each helmet we explore tells a little piece of Rome's story, from its rise as a world power to its final moments. These helmets were much more than simple protections. They were reflections of a civilization that knew how to balance functionality, innovation, and symbolism. Think with me. We start with the Montefortino, a simple model that marked the first steps of the Roman legions. Then we saw the Culus, inspired by the Gauls, showing how Rome did not hesitate to learn from other peoples. The Imperial Gallic was a leap forward in design, with its imposing visuals and combat efficiency. Soon came the Imperial Italian one, lighter and adapted to the Roman cultural identity, reinforcing the continuous evolution of the army. And of course the Cassis, the standard helmet that symbolized discipline and organization. Essential in training courses such as testudo, ceremonial helmets remind us of the luxury and power of officers, while the Ridge helmet brought innovative solutions to protect soldiers in times of new threats. Finally, the simple and practical Spangenhelm closes our list as the link between Rome and the Middle Ages, influencing European military design for centuries. Each of these helmets was not just a piece of armor. They represented Roman creativity and pragmatism, shaping the future of warfare and leaving a legacy that still echoes today. Isn't it amazing how even a detail like the design of a helmet can tell so much about the history of a civilization? Rome didn't just take over the world, she created ideas that spanned the centuries. And remember, whenever you want to know how Rome became the largest empire in antiquity, just go to the pinned comment and get your digital book, The 10 Battles That Shaped the Roman Empire. Get it right now because the units are limited. If you like this dive into history, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Here, you'll always find content designed to pique your curiosity and explore the great mysteries of the past. See you next time.